One of my favourite things to do with my Cricut Joy is to use it to make greetings cards, especially since the card mat and the pre-cut cards make it so easy. But Rabia, I don't have a Cricut Joy, I hear you gasp. No need to go out and panic buy it. There is a way of cutting these cards on the bigger Cricut machines, and it comes in the form of the 2x2 card mat. This mat allows you to use the existing Cricut Insert and Cutaway cards with your bigger Cricut machines, and in this video I will show you exactly how to use it. I will talk through the different kinds of cards that you're able to use. I'll show you how to design your card in Cricut Design Space. Then we will use the mat to cut a gorgeous greetings card, and I also have some really great pro tips for you at the end of the video. Let's start by looking at the universe of cards that are compatible with this mat. So you're either going to be using a Cricut Insert card or a Cricut Cutaway card. With the Insert cards, the machine will cut your design out of the card, and then you will tuck another piece of card, usually something glittery or holographic, into the back of that to get a really lovely finish. The final look that you get with a Cutaway card is pretty similar to an Insert card, but you will see there is a difference. When you open a Cutaway card, you will find a layer of adhesive, so you have to peel the backing off of this and then stick down another piece of shiny card, again holographic glitter card, and then you load it into your machine like this. Your machine will cut a design out of the front of the card, and when you weed away the excess, you will see the beautiful shiny glittery card peeking through behind. And if you want to get really jazzy, then you can use the foil tool to add some foiled elements to your designs. Both these cards come in either a square or a rectangular shape. Let's actually take a minute to talk about the sizing, because it can get a little bit confusing and Cricut has changed the way they name their cards recently. So what you'll see now is that there is a code for each of the different sizes, and the code will contain a letter and then a number. So it will either have an R or an S. The R stands for a rectangular shape and the S stands for a square shape. And then the number will either be 10, 20, 30 or 40. And each of these represents the size, with 10 being the smallest, 40 being the biggest. As we're using the 2x2 card mat with our Cricut Explore or Cricut Maker, we can use any of the pre-cut cards that Cricut sells. If you are using a Cricut Joy, you wouldn't be able to use the bigger card sizes. Let's now take a look at the card mat. You can see that it has pockets for up to 4 cards. If you peel off the protective sheet, then you will see the top of these pockets is sticky, but the underneath of it is not. It's actually quite a clever bit of engineering, because by tucking your card into these pockets, your Cricut machine can cut a design out of the top while that divider protects the back of your card. When you use this card mat, you can load as many cards as you want, up to 4. You don't have to do, all 4 pockets at one time. But of course, the advantage of having 4 pockets is that you can get some bulk crafting going and get yourself set for the full year with all the greetings cards that you might need. Let me show you how to design your card in Cricut Design Space. Once you are on the canvas, make sure you have your machine selection set to Maker or Explore. We need to do this to make sure that when we go through to make it, we will have the 2x2 card mat as an option for cutting on. You have a couple of options when it comes to designing your card. You can either use a pre-made design that you can find within Cricut Design Space, or you can design one from scratch. Now, I'm going to show you how to use the pre-made designs because I find that to be the easiest. But if you head to the pro tip section of the video, then I will cover how to do a design from scratch. To find the pre-made designs, we will click on Projects. There you can see there is a drop-down list at the top, and we can use this to filter. I wouldn't choose to use the cards filter because if I show you, there will be cards in here such as this one which are not suitable for the card mat. So instead, I would either filter for cutaway cards or for insert cards. Once you've put on the filter, you can find so many cool designs that you can use for your card. You can make your search more specific by typing a search term up here, for example, birthday. And you'll see that there are designs which are for the rectangular cards, so the R10, R20, etc. And there are also designs which are for the square cards. If you are using a rectangular card design, you'll notice when you select it that under the drop down for the size, you are prompted to select which card size you're using. If you're not sure, just check your card pack. It will have the size written on there. And what it will do is it will automatically increase or decrease the pattern to fit onto the size of card that you have selected. This is a bit different to when you select a design which is for a square card, as you'll see that you can actually only select the square card. You can't get design space to resize this design to fit on one of the rectangular shaped cards. So if you're happy with your choice of card and you've selected the correct size, then you can click straight on to Make It, and it will take you through to the Make screen. So here you can see a representation of the card mat that we'll be using. And you'll see that the card size selection we made on the project screen is the same as it is on this screen. You do have an option to resize the card here, but if you do that, for example, let me go to R40, it will resize the card, but it doesn't resize the image. So you will just have a smaller image on the bigger card. So if you do want to use the bigger card, make sure you've selected that size on the project screen, not here on the Make It screen. So let's go back to our initial size. At the moment, we're only cutting the one card, but you can see we have 3 spare pockets. So if we wanted to actually just cut 4 general happy birthday cards so that we've got some in the supply for all those emergencies, you can increase the number of project copies and select apply, and then you'll see it will put the project onto each one of these pockets. Let's go ahead now and cut this design. You can see on your card mat you've got the 4 pockets and there is a protective sheet on both sides. When I use the card mat, I do like to peel both of these sheets just to prevent the sheet from getting caught in the railings while the card mat is being pulled in and out. Another tip that I already use for my other card mats is that I put a piece of washi tape onto the protective sheet. And that way I know which is the top and which is the bottom, so that when I peel it off, I can place it with the top face down so that I don't pick up any dirt and debris from my desk onto that protective sheet and then end up having all of that going onto my sticky adhesive surface of the card mat. Let's put the card into the card mat, making sure we're using the same pocket as we have on our Make It screen. So in this case, top left. So I need to pull up the pocket and slide the card underneath. And then I will push it as far as I can against that pocket divider and also as far up to the top. And then simply rub it down in place. I like to use the brayer tool to get a good bond. And that's important because you don't want the card moving around during the cut and ending up having your design all messed up. We have to first select our base material, so we can search for cardstock. You can see it has an option for a cutaway card and backer or an insert card. So I'm going to select insert card. So we are ready to load the mat, but before I actually press the load button, there is one important step, which is to move these star wheels to be in the center of the rail so that you can see when the card mat gets pulled in and out. You can see here, the star wheels will move down the middle part of our mat and not on top of our cards. They can end up leaving an imprint on your design, and it's more of a problem if you're using foil transfer sheets on your design, but I would do it nonetheless just to make sure there's no interference with the cutting process. So our card mat is ready to go. I already have the fine point blade in, so I'm going to select load. Make sure you've left sufficient space behind your machine for the card mat to be pulled in and out. Once the design is cut, we can unload the mat. First step is I'm going to recover the side of the mat we haven't used, just so that I don't end up resting on it and getting fibers from my jumper all over it. Okay. I like to use this large scraper tool to lift the card off of the mat. You do have to be careful with this, especially with a new mat, because it's very sticky. And you don't want to tear the card as you lift it up, which is why I find having this wide tool quite handy. And there is our design. We just have to grab the insert card, then push it through each of the slits in the corners. And voila, we have a really beautiful card. Now that you know the basics of how to find a nice card design and cut it on your 2x2 card mat, I've got some really juicy pro tips to share with you. With some of the pre-made designs which feature different layers, for example, a section that's being cut, but then there's also some pen, maybe even foil as well. For example, this design here, we can see there's an elephant being cut and there's a couple of different colors of foil being added. When you go through to the Make It screen on this card, you notice something weird happens. You suddenly got 2 different card mats and the elements are all on different cards. There is a really simple fix for this. What we need to do is select Customize to get this design onto our canvas, and then highlight the design and press Attach. And now when you go through to Make It, you will see that the problem has been solved and all of the different elements are on the same mat on the same card. Earlier I showed you how to use your card mat, but if you notice, we only cut one design or multiple copies of that same design on the mat. But let's say you actually want to cut a few different cards on the same mat. You can in fact do this, but there are some nuances that we need to cover. So if you are using the pre-made project designs, then you can get 4 different pre-made designs onto the same mat. But let's go back into projects and filter for insert cards. And let's choose this design, for example. We need to select our finished size. And one thing to be aware of when you are actually cutting any designs is that you have to use the same size card in each of the pockets if you're going to cut more than one card. You can't, for example, cut an R10, an R20, an R30, and an S40. That's just not something that Cricut Design Space can do at the moment. You just have to choose the one size that you're cutting and use the same size in each pocket if you are doing more than one card. Here, you must press Customize. Don't go straight to Make It. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to highlight this design and I'm going to copy it by pressing Command C. Because you'll notice that when I go back into projects and find the second design that I want to cut, for example, this one here, again, I'm going to select R20 because, as I mentioned, you have to cut the same size card when you're doing more than one on the same mat. And when I press Customize now, you'll see it's replaced that previous design. But because we copied it, we can press Command V and bring it back onto the canvas. And so we're just going to repeat this step. This time we will highlight both cards and copy them and find the next design that we want to cut. And just keep doing this until you've got 4 designs that you like the look of. Once you've got all 4 designs onto a canvas like this, you might be tempted to go straight through to Make It. But let me show you what happens. It's actually a big fat mess. We've got like 5 or 6 different mats here. Everything is all over the place. So we've got a couple of things that we need to go back and do. Let's first hit cancel. The first thing is, in order to have them all on the same card mat, the bottom layer needs to be the same color. So you can see this one, for example, is yellow, this one's pink, this one is on white, and this one is a lilac color. When you click on the design, you can see in the layers panel that you can expand the layers. So if you go down to the bottommost layer, you can see the color there is yellow. So what we're going to do is change the bottommost layer for each of these to match this one here. So let's select the next design, expand the layers, select the bottommost layer, and then change the color to this yellow. And we know it's this yellow because Design Space puts the colors on your canvas up at the top. So that's the first thing. Let's do the next one. So that's white, but we want it to be yellow. Again, bottommost layer, change it to yellow. Now, if we go through to Make It, hopefully some of you will remember why we still have a problem. You'll see everything is all on different mats. And what we have forgotten is that we haven't attached. So we need to go to each individual design and press Attach. Don't attach all 4 designs together. You want to do them individually. And now, when we go through to Make It, we should finally have 4 cards on the same mat with all the elements in the right place. So that's how you can cut multiple different pre-made designs on the same card mat. There is another way of doing this, which is instead of using projects, you use images. So if we click on images, we can search for the occasion we're crafting for. Let's say wedding, for example. And the next thing we can do is under project type, we can filter for cards. And then here you've got lots of designs that you can use on your card. For example, we can see this design here with these corners would work well on an insert card. So we can add that to canvas. One of the limitations of designing a card this way using images is that when you do your search, even though you filtered for cards, you will still get lots of images that are not compatible with the insert or the cutaway cards in terms of the way it's been designed. And at the moment, there isn't a filter specifically for insert cards or cutaway cards like there is under projects. You can instead search for a cutaway card, and then you will get designs which are specifically for using cutaway cards. But there aren't quite as many results and they're not as neatly organized into the different categories like weddings and birthdays. The other aspect to bear in mind is that when you are designing using images, you do need to make sure that you're sizing the design properly for the card that you're using. What's great about this is that Cricut have provided some templates that we can use. So if we head back into projects and filter for cutaway cards, you can see there are templates for the square and the rectangular cards, and in fact the rectangular card you can select which size you're going to be using. You just select the project and the size, and then press customize. And there you can see the guide for creating your design. This is really handy for designing both your insert cards and your cutaway cards. When designing an insert card, remember you will need to add the slits in the corners for the backer card to be put through. And the great thing is you don't need to do this manually. Again, you can find them in images. If you search for insert card corners, then there will be lots of options available. You can put this onto your canvas, and then you can design the rest of your card inside. And you can use the templates that I showed you earlier to resize the slits to fit within the design. To save you guys a bit of time, what I have done is saved on my profile a project where I have already saved all of the different size templates and then added in the corners, so you can use this as a starting place for your insert cards. Another pro tip for you is if you are just completely confused about what size card you've got, especially if it's one of the older packs where it doesn't use the R10, S40 naming convention, just take the card and put it onto the card mat while the cover is still on. And then you'll be able to figure it out because the card will align to one of the marked lines on your mat. So here I can see I have a rectangular card and it is the R20 because it is matching up with the line marked 20. The last pro tip I want to share with you is remember that you must always load your card mat in top ways. You can't rotate it 180 and load it that way how you can with the other Cricut mats. And this is because when you do that, you change the orientation of your cards and you won't be able to get your design centered on the card. So unfortunately, this is not a mat that you can flip if you're used to doing that with your standard grip or your light grip mats. I do hope all of your 2x2 card mat questions have been answered. If not, drop them into the comments and I'll try and help you. And before you go, check out this playlist of my most wanted craft tutorials. But otherwise, I will see you next time. And until then, happy crafting!